What if a child's ability to build friendships is not about confidence or personality, but whether their special educational needs is properly identified? A single overlooked need can be the reason why a child struggles to make friends, and the right support can change everything. For some children, special educational needs recognition opens doors to understanding and inclusion. For others, it can intentionally create a label before they've even had the chance to form friendships. Let's face it, friendships can fall apart or flourish at school, but does special educational needs recognition decide which way it goes? So in this video, I'll explore whether recognising a child's special educational needs can truly make or break their friendships. I'll explore why a child's social challenges are sometimes overlooked and what the consequences could be for their peer relationships when their needs aren't supported, with the aim to help us as parents feel more confident to advocate effectively so that their needs are recognised, understood and supported as they navigate social life whilst at school. My name is Brenda and I'm a parent mentor and a fellow parent. I support parents raising children with individual needs and differences to stay empowered whilst they navigate through procedural challenges. And I don't know about you, but as a parent you may anticipate friendship gaps, social isolation, bullying and insufficient support. We may have uncertainty about how well a new school will provide consistent individualised support. As witnessing when a child is in receipt of special educational needs support, it is clear how several aspects of that support directly help nurture positive peer connections. And you see this with the use of inclusive classroom strategies, social skills teaching, facilitating structured peer interactions, which all help encourage peer participation. And having special educational needs support aims to remove obstacles and build the child's social confidence, enabling more meaningful, stable peer relationships. And so when a child's needs are overlooked, the impact can be profound. And this is where I want to share a case study that is a powerful example of how things can unravel quickly when support is missing. So this is a story about Emily. Emily is in the mainstream secondary school and has begun struggling since leaving the supportive environment of primary. Her anxiety is rising, her attendance is slipping, and she's becoming increasingly overwhelmed socially. But instead of asking why, the school has focused on the wrong things. Because Emily is bright and enjoys learning, staff assume she has no additional needs. Her disengagement is labelled as choosing not to learn, rather than a sign of under-challenged or unmet support needs. Her teacher even insists that she was too bright for special educational needs support or a specialist autistic school. And as Emily becomes more anxious and less able to cope, the focus shifts again, not towards understanding her neurodevelopmental differences, but towards her compliance. Her school refusal is treated as a behaviour problem. Her social struggles are framed as her not coping with peers and without any consideration of support strategies or alternative placements. Meanwhile, Emily is facing increased peer retaliation, yet the environment is expected to remain the same. The emphasis is on how she should fit into school, not on how school could adapt to her. And in the end, Emily's real needs are overshadowed by assumptions about her capability, compliance and fitting in, and even her mother watching a slow slide from misunderstanding to mislabeling, while the right support remains out of reach. That would help her. Emily's story isn't an isolated one, as her experience highlights the pattern that we see far too often. And when a child's strengths are overemphasised and their challenges minimised, the support that they rely on for social connections isn't put in place. And without that support, friendships can become a lot more harder to build, harder to keep, and sometimes impossible to access. So let's look at why this happens. So let's have a look at why it's not seen by the school, as the school seems to overlook several key aspects of Emily's experience. And one of them is her anxiety and emotional distress, as her increasing anxiety and school refusal are indicators of significant emotional strain, which the school is not addressing. Another is under-challenged in learning, where Emily feels under-challenged, but the school interpret this as disengagement, as a refusal, rather than recognising that her learning needs are not met. Another thing could be the autism or the ADHD related needs. So if the possibility of her having these conditions are dismissed, they're not seeing how her social and learning challenges relate to perhaps autism or ADHD. Another is the impact of social differences. As a school doesn't acknowledge her social presentation, it makes her vulnerable to bullying or retaliation, and her difficulties around peer interactions are just seen as her personal failures rather than any particular neurodevelopmental difference. And another is the cumulative stress and coping difficulties. The case study mentions a slippery slope, where her differences are increasingly viewed as her inability to cope rather than part of her neurodivergence. And this critical context is not being recognised, as the school's attention is primarily on her perceived capability as being too bright, which equals no learning needs. Also, their focus is on her compliance and her engagement. There's an interpretation of disengagement and school refusal as a choice rather than signs of unmet need. There's a focus on normalising behaviour, where the focus is on how Emily fits into a mainstream environment rather than adapting the environment to her needs. And there's the focus on peer coping, where there's a talk about her not being able to cope with her peers without considering strategies or perhaps some specialist provisions. So let's look at how this would have an impact on a child in Emily's position and their ability to build connections in school. The impact will result in increased isolation. By not acknowledging her social differences, Emily is at risk of further school exclusion. Another impact is the misrepresentation of behaviour. Her social presentation is seen as problematic rather than different. And another is the lack of support for coping strategies. Without understanding her condition or her individual needs, then the school can't provide social support for intervention, which limits her possibility for positive peer interactions. The final impact is potential reinforcement for negative experiences. By framing Emily's challenges as choice or inability to cope, this would exacerbate her anxiety, disengagement, and the likelihood of withdrawing from school activities. And this is a reminder why advocating for your child isn't an option, it's essential. Because when a child's needs are misunderstood or overlooked, the consequences don't just show up in the classroom, they split into every part of their school life, especially their friendships. When special educational needs go unrecognised, a child can be left navigating social spaces without the tools, support and understanding that they need. Small misunderstandings grow into bigger struggles, anxiety rises, confidence fails, and friendships become harder to start, harder to maintain, sometimes impossible to access. And while a child is left trying to cope, the external factors around them may interpret their distress as behaviour, attitude or choice. And this is why advocacy matters. They can now become more safer, kinder and more accessible. And if you are experiencing a predicament like this, just to let you know, you don't have to do this alone. If you feel like working alongside a mentor would help you to gain some clarity around your situation, why not contact me? My information is in the description box below. So, can special educational needs recognition make or break friendships at school? The truth is, it can influence them deeply, but it's not the whole picture. When their needs are overlooked or acknowledged, friendships can become harder. And school transitions can feel overwhelming, especially if you're going from primary to secondary school. And as a parent, we can't control every social dynamic, but we can advocate. We can ensure that our child's strengths and challenges are seen and that the support around them helps build connections rather than isolation. And when we do, we can give them the best chance to form friendships that are genuine, stable and empowering. So if this video resonates with you, why not take a look at this video here? Or alternatively, why not look at my website? But for now, keep doing what you're doing, stay focused, stay empowered and keep creating progress.